Yeah, and I think with one of the things that I just kind of thought of here when you said that is when you drop to number one, your situation does get worse, right? Like if you ended the season number one overall, you're the worst team. The Carolina Panthers had to become a worse team to get this first overall pick. So just to kind of keep that in mind, that's just one thing I just kind of thought of when we were talking. But yeah,
I might act rude. I lost gang members, I can't act cool. I got gang scriptures in my tattoos. I was running from the police in my trap shoes. Posted trying to flip 100, I come back fool. Come from nothing, but I blossomed to a tycoon. Betrayal scars, can't stop thinking about them stab wounds. We might not catch him today, but he gon' die soon.
all right, welcome to the Third and Wrong YouTube channel. We got another Colts specific video here, and we're bringing back our favorite, Mr. Absolutely. Quick shout out to him. Find him on Twitter. If you're a Colts fan, he interacts quite a bit, and he always has some good takes in. So, welcome back. How you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I'm a little tired.
Oh
I
yeah,
It's pretty early for the both of us. Yeah.
yes,
But
definitely.
it's starting to get hot. It's that time of year.
Yeah, it's getting warm. Or are you talking about free agency? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, definitely talking about free agency. This
Perfect.
is one of the most exciting weeks. This is Christian Kirk gets overpaid week.
Yeah, this is yeah. Who else got overpaid last year? It was Christian Kirk and then someone else. I feel like.
I think the top tier wide receivers, they weren't necessarily overpaid, but the compensation that the teams had to pay for them though was pretty ridiculous.
That is
Like
true.
they had to give up 5 picks to get Tyreek.
Oh
That's
yeah,
a lot.
that one was big. The Jets almost got Tyreek Hill,
Mhm.
and then the Dolphins came in and gave them that little extra. Yeah, this
Oh
is
yeah.
the hot time
I
of the
mean,
year.
right? I don't blame Tyreek for not wanting to go to New York though. He would have been catching passes from Zach Wilson, and
And
apparently
Mike White,
Skylar Thompson can get the job done better than Zach Wilson.
yeah, tough look. All right,
Right?
so welcome into this video. We are going to be talking about one of the bigger draft news that we've gotten so far in this year with the Carolina Panthers and the Chicago Bears making a deal swapping picks 9 through 1. So we'll talk about that today and kind of break down where each teams are positioned for the draft and kind of the moves that they can do there. But before we get into those details, just a little reminder if you do appreciate this kind of content, drop a like, drop a comment with your opinions, or just a, good job, bad job, whatever, And then subscribe if you haven't already. You get notifications and you get more of our content. So that's a win win deal. But yeah, with this video, let me pull up this little graphic I made real quick. Hopefully, this is the right page. Yep. So basically, this is the gist of the trade here. So the Chicago Bears were helped out pretty heavily by the Houston Texans at number two, who beat the Colts to give up the first overall pick to the Chicago Bears. Otherwise, this trade wouldn't be as hefty as it would be, or as it is now. And so the Chicago Bears traded the first overall pick this year for the number 9 overall pick this year. So they dropped 8 spots, still in the top 10, which is huge. They get the 2023 number 61 overall pick, as you can see there. And they also add a first round pick next year and a second round pick the year after that. And they pick up the tab for DJ Moore, who still has 3 years, 61, basically $62 million left on his deal. And that deal, I think, has no dead money after this year. So still a pretty good contract, but it's a big contract for DJ Moore. But it's kind of a wide receiver that they might have needed. So I know you might be a fan of this trade, but it does impact the Colts, so that's why we're talking about this. But what are your first kind of impressions when you saw this? Was it like a holy crap or like a okay, I'm glad we didn't pay that kind of contract.
I think it was a little bit of both. At first, when I heard that the Panthers were jumping to number one, it didn't really surprise me because The Panthers, they don't want to stay in quarterback purgatory, which is smart because their pick was at 9. So the chances of them getting one of the elite guys was slim to none. So I get the move. I wasn't really surprised about that. I was shocked about the compensation though, because one from 9 to 1, I would have thought that the compensation would have been much higher. I definitely didn't buy Ryan Poles's whole shtick about him having two ones and two twos in place for the number one pick, because I don't know, like that just seemed like too high of a price. And I even tweeted last week, I was like, I wonder who in the NFL is gonna call that bluff. Because someone's gonna be like, yeah, we're not giving you 2 first and 2 second. We'll give you a couple of picks and a player, maybe, but that's about it. And lo and behold, the Panthers gave them a couple of picks and a player, and then that was about it. So technically, the picks, I think the picks are valuable to a degree, because there's a possibility that the Chicago Bears could end up with 2 top 10 picks next season if their season flames out and then Carolina's season also flames out, or if the Bears even have like a middle of the pack record and then they end up at like 11 or 12, they could end up with a top 5 pick from Carolina. So I think that first was a really good steal. The extra second that came is going to end up being in 2025, which is 2 years away. So that's not really, that important right now. And then Carolina actually gave up 61 instead of 39. So they didn't even give up their own pick. So at the end of the day, they leveraged other people's assets in order to get the number one pick. Now, DJ Moore is what really sweetened the pot for me. Like DJ Moore makes this trade uneven because now Carolina doesn't have a proven wide receiver one. They don't have a proven quarterback one. The Deontay Foreman is a free agent right now, so we don't know if he's coming back. And DJ Moore is expensive, but Justin Fields is cheap.
Yeah.
So they can offset that easily. This is very similar to, AJ Brown to Philly, but the only difference is that Philly didn't end up getting a shit ton of picks in the process as well. Or not really a shit ton, but didn't really end up getting like 3 or 4 picks in the process as well.
Yeah.
So I like this trade. I think that it puts the Panthers in a little bit of a handicap because now they have to get it right. They can't afford to take a guess or to think, oh, maybe this guy could be the guy. They have to get it right, and they have to be 100% convinced that the guy that they draft is gonna be the one that's gonna change their franchise forever. Like that's gonna be the person that player, along with Josh McCown and Frank Reich, like they're gonna be able to maximize whatever it is that player does best. Um, but I don't have confidence in the Carolina Panthers. I really don't.
No. And the thing is, so let's kind of take this into a little bit of a deeper dive here because we can kind of
Mhm.
show you what we're meaning by this without like just kind of talking about it. So I'm gonna pull up. Let's see here. Yeah. So I'm on Spot Track right now. This is the contracts right now for the Carolina Panthers. So the people that they have on their roster. And so if you look at the contracts, you got a lot of really good positional players here. But as far as skill position players, you have Ian Thomas as your top paid skill position player, which he's a fine tight
Mhm.
end, but there's a reason why he's only making 5 million a year. That's kind of like he's a good tight end. He's not a pass catching heavy receiving weapon. Um, then you
Mhm.
go all the way down to
He's not an
Laviska.
elite guy.
Exactly. Then you go all the way down to Laviska Chenault, Terrace Marshall, who is coming on a little bit better,
Mhm.
and Tommy Tremble. You still have Matt Corral technically. Um, Chuba Hubbard, Shy Smith, who is decent, and then you have a bunch of no names. And no disrespect, it's just that we're not people that everyone knows, to be honest. Um,
Right.
so looking at that, we're gonna be adding, one of Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, whoever the Carolina
Mhm.
Panthers decide that they love the most, essentially. And then you throw them into this offense, which has a decent offensive line. I don't think there's anything bad there. Ikem Ekwonu should continue to develop. They have a lot of other pieces there that are decent. Um,
Hmm.
but then yeah, you're banking on your defense at this point, and Frank Reich being able to extract a lot from a rookie quarterback, which he never wanted to do with the Colts. That's the reason why we didn't trade up
Hmm.
for a Justin Fields or whatever that year. We went with these veteran quarterbacks because he didn't want to have to go through what he's going to have to go through with the rookies here this year. And then, um, yeah, you don't have a first round pick this year that you can expend on a wide receiver if like you have to have a quarterback this year. You could potentially take one at what 39 or something like that.
Hmm.
Um,
39, yeah.
yeah, you could potentially take one at 39, but if you miss there, you don't have a first round pick next year for a wide receiver if that's what your flavor is, and then it's just you're reducing your options on wide receivers, and this is why, like from a Colts perspective, this is probably a good trade because we don't have that temptation anymore. And so it sucks that we're going to get the third or fourth pick out of quarterback this year, but we don't have to give up, say, Michael Pittman Jr. We don't have to give up, our 30, what is it, 33 or 34 overall pick this year.
30, 35.
Okay, 35. So we don't have to give up that pick, and
Hmm.
we have all the other picks that we have this year, and we still have our first round next year in case we need it. Well, obviously we'll need it, but
Hmm.
so that's the kind of thing that, like, perspective wise, the Carolina Panthers, they get their guy, but this is why a lot of teams that trade up for a quarterback end up not working out because what they give up to get that number one guy is probably what they need to make sure that number one guy is going to succeed. So it's a good trade to get your guy, but the Bears are coming out of this right now as the current winners. Now, what tips the scale to make this a win for the Panthers is they hit the home run, they hit the grand slam, and the walk off ninth, bottom of the ninth inning kind of thing. It's
Hmm.
unlikely, but if it happens, then obviously they're the winners.
Yeah. I kind of like to, like, when I explain the draft to people, I try and tell it to the gambling audience. Like, it's kind of like putting together a parlay. That's essentially what the Panthers are doing. They're banking on multiple things to happen in order for them to have a big payout. Where it's like GMs like Chris Ballard, they want to mitigate their losses, and they want to try and control like the amount of risk that they're taking. And the quarterback position is one that has the biggest risk and the biggest reward, which is the reason why I think Ballard's going to stay put and he's going to draft the best quarterback. And he has that much confidence in Shane Steichen that, he knows that Steichen will be able to draw an offense for whoever we bring in. So it really won't matter. So at that point in time, it's like, then your gamble becomes only one factor. Then it just becomes, if our quarterback works, then we get it right, we're good. But if our quarterback doesn't work, Ballard will still keep building the team. He'll still keep, winning on a bunch of smaller bets, and then he'll have a roster that's good enough. We can try again in 2024.
Yeah. And that's what I like about it is it gives more flexibility staying where we're at, though it just makes me more uncomfortable with not getting the pick of the litter. So I brought this over to the
Mm-hmm.
Chicago Bears. We're gonna kind of dive into that situation as well. And I think the biggest thing about this move for the Chicago Bears, I'm going to highlight a few things. So
Mm-hmm.
the one of the bigger things is they have over $7.5 million in cap space this year, and they don't have to pay a quarterback. So that's roughly
Mm-hmm.
seven, phenomenal players at their positions. Or, if you happen to get two, 15 to $20 million players, you still get four or
Mm-hmm.
five really solid players as far as what your contract is saying. You can also fill that up
Mm-hmm.
with, qualified veterans that want to play for Justin Fields, want to play for Matt Eberflus, which you're going to get players that want to come and play for Matt Eberflus because of how well his linebackers do. If you're a linebacker, I think they
Mm-hmm.
go after Bobby Okereke, um,
Yeah.
because they lost their linebacker last year. But anyways, they're,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to start putting out money for people, get them in, front load them now, and then that way later on when they have to start paying Justin Fields and their offensive line and their wide receivers, they can retain those players a little bit better too. And so let's go over their draft capital for this year. They still have more draft capital we can talk about in other years, but this year they have three top 75 picks, number 9, number 53, and 60. Or sorry, four top 75 picks, 53, 61, and 64, top of the third round.
Whew.
And then they have two fourth round picks, two fifth round picks, and two 7th round picks. And so,
My Lord.
yeah, it's quite the haul. That's what for like 10 picks in
61 and 64 are prime trade bait.
true. Yeah, prime trade bait to move up or to move down.
Either or.
Yeah,
They could package 61 and like let's say 148 to move up to another spot in the 50s, or they can package 60, they can take they can draft at 61 and then take 64, move back, get another 4, another 5, another 7, and then they could manipulate the board. And this is why Chris Ballard talks about having picks, because the more picks you have, the more you can do with them, the more flexibility you have, the more movement you have up and down the board. And who knows, maybe you can package like 53 and 64 and jump back into the first round even. You never know.
yeah. That's a lot that they can do there. And Ryan Poles, he's still kind of a newer GM, but it is good to see that he's
Mm-hmm.
just picking this up like, he's just, fluent with this kind of stuff. So I really like to see that for the
Mm-hmm.
Bears. Kind of sucks for us because, they
Right.
stole our head coach. They're gonna steal some of our players now. But that's the
Mm-hmm.
name of the game here. But let's kind of go over the roster here because there's a few things that we can kind of point out of like where they're going to go with the number 9 overall pick. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I think for the most part, people were saying, Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, slam it in there. That's the pick because that's really,
Mm-hmm.
the two options when you're at, 2, 3, or 4, where most people have the Bears trading down to in their mock drafts. But now you get DJ
Mm-hmm.
Moore, you get the 9th overall pick, and you got a few more things that you're like, okay, we're not going to get Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. Well, it's going to be the next best thing for us. And so you look at this. There are players here that can play left tackle, right tackle, but your starting left tackle is Braxton Jones here, and he counts for less than $1 million on your cap. I think he still keeps his job there because he's pretty solid at left tackle, and he's going to just get more
Mm-hmm.
experience. And then your next tackle, as far as what they've been using, is Kellen Deesh, who was another rookie last year, and um, I guess you have Larry Borum and Alex Leatherwood, which are two people that were not. I don't think they were starting, if I'm not mistaken. And so
Mm-mm.
that's a highlight. They could be probably the likely landing spot of Paris Johnson or Peter
Mm-hmm.
Skoronsky or Braxton Jones. Is it Braxton Jones? Or is this Braxton Jones
I
is right here? No, who's the other one?
Braxton Jones, yeah,
No, who's the
other
other? It's
Ohio State.
Broderick Jones.
Broderick Jones, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, Braxton and Broderick.
Oh wow, it's very similar names. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that to me is where the Bears are going because they do have a solid, young tackle there, but you need to keep Justin Fields just free from defenders. You need to do that for any quarterback. So it would definitely help Justin Fields to have a little bit more time to just get his throws off, get his reads off, everything like that. So To me, that's where I think that the Bears go. Do you have any other thoughts about what they could do with that number 9 pick?
Well, with the number 9 pick, I agree with you that tackle would be the prime position to target. I think it would be better for Justin Fields' development. It would be better for the Bears overall. It would be better for their run game, their pass game. It'll it'll help their team a lot more. As we've seen the last season, the teams who drafted offensive linemen in the first round, and specifically the ones who drafted tackles, are the ones who, were managed to improve because of how important that position is.
Yeah,
So I think even if the Bears were to bring in a starting left tackle, they can have Braxton Jones go to right tackle, or they can have him be the swing tackle. Leatherwood
guard.
could go to guard. Yeah. So they'll have a little bit of offensive line flexibility there. And I think the fact that this draft is gonna be so quarterback and defensive player heavy at the top. Ryan Poles was very smart to go all defense last year when offensive players were like the thing, and then he got a few good defensive players, and then now this year he can do the reverse. So while everyone at the top is busy drafting defenders, he'll get his choice of a handful of great day one starting left tackles, and they could even trade back from 9 and get even more assets and build that way as well. So I think they're in a really good spot.
Oh yeah, 100%. Um, I'm just trying to see here. Um, I'm gonna pull up kind of PFF here and just see if we can kind of guess. We're not gonna do a full mock draft here, but we're just gonna see if we can
Hmm.
kind of guess how say the top. See, yeah, let's just go to the Bears pick and just see what we could potentially see
Hmm.
with the draft here. So,
Hmm.
if you're the Panthers, you trade up from number 9 to number 1 overall. Who's that
Hmm.
guy you're trading up for? And
I
I've
mean, if
noticed
I'm
that
trading up that far,
they've bumped up Anthony Richardson a lot on this board. But yeah, sorry, go on.
hmm yeah, because a lot of people think that that's the only player in this draft that would be worth it, because the other guys are kind of like we already know what the other guys are, but Anthony Richardson remains the anomaly, like he's the question mark. So people are automatically thinking, well, if I'm gonna pay that price, especially give up that kind of a talent like DJ Moore to jump to number 1, then it has to be for the gamble. Like it has to be for the guy that could, potentially end up being the best player ever, ever, ever to ever live. So, but I personally think that because it's Frank Reich and because it's
And Josh
Josh
McCown.
McCown, that's
Yeah.
their yeah, that's their quarterback coach. I think that the pick is gonna be CJ Stroud. I think that they went up there because they want a pocket passer. They want a big physical guy who can stand in the pocket because like you said, they're going to rely on their defense heavily next year. Next year it's going to be the Panthers defense is going to have to carry them, while their rookie gets acclimated to the NFL. And not having a lot of wide receiver help right now either tells me that they're going to try and be aggressive filling in their wide receiver need, or they're going to try to run the hell out of the ball. And if they're going to run the hell out of the ball, then they want the guy that when he drops back, he's making good decisions. They want the guy that when he drops back, he's making the right reads. He's strong, tall, accurate. So I think that would be the prototype for Frank. People are making jokes saying that like Will Levis, because of the Carson Wentz comparisons, that's who Frank would want to go after. But I think Frank just liked Carson Wentz personally. Like I think it
Mm-hmm.
was just they were just really good friends and they got along well. And then he thought to himself, maybe I could revive his career in Indy, and that's why he brought him over there.
Yeah.
So I definitely do think it'll be Stroud, and I think Stroud would be the pick at 1, but
I
I
hope
don't know.
not.
Like I have a hard time. Yeah, I have a hard time believing that that Carolina Panthers team is gonna be better under Frank, because I think for as little as they had last year, they did pretty well under Steve Wilkes.
Yeah. And the thing, and I've mentioned this a lot with Frank Reich is I like Frank Reich, and I'm very happy with the time that we had with him. the thing that is frustrating with Frank Reich, though, and just no one talks about it, is his comfortability with playing from behind, with having a record to
Yes.
overcome. And to me, that's just exhausting. Like, yeah, it's a great trait to have, but the best trait is to not be in that situation. And that's where it's like,
Frank Reich is the king of slow starts. Slow starts are his mantra. Slow starts are, something that he's done so frequently that it's like, at this point, that's who he is. And it's like no matter how much we wanna try and say that he's learned. Of course, I'm sure he's learned from the experiences that he had in Indy. Hence, the biggest reason why they jumped from 9 to 1 because he's like, I'm not doing this without a quarterback again. Like I refuse to. But there's still a lot of other things that have to go into it. There's still a lot of other factors, a lot of things that have to be done. And honestly, I one of the things that I said a couple of weeks ago was that week one, the first bet that I'm going to make is Indianapolis money line and whoever the Panthers play for them to beat them. That's gonna be
there
that's gonna be my guaranteed week one bet.
you go. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like, okay, now you got CJ Stroud, you got, a defense I think is very capable, and you got Elijah Verjo. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but
Oh,
the
Ijiro Evero, I think his name is.
Ezra. Okay, yeah. Ezra, yeah,
Yeah.
Evero, from Denver, who led a good defense
Mm-hmm.
there. I think that defense is going to do a lot of heavy lifting, which the defense has been doing a lot of heavy lifting for the Colts with a offensive minded coach. And so it's just like,
Right.
yeah, Frank Reich's a good coach, but if he's, this great of a coach, why is his defense carrying? Why is, all these things kind of working that way? And so it's just very
Mm-hmm.
interesting. But anyways, so that's the first pick here. If this is how the board falls, where do the Texans go? I think Bryce Young is the most likely pick here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was talking about the Houston Texans getting Bryce Young for like 3 months now. And I think that the way that their record ended up because they weren't a good team at all. I actually thought they were gonna end up with the first overall pick and then end up taking Bryce Young first overall. And I think that it's a great pairing with him and John Mechie from Bama last year, and he didn't play last year because he was going through his cancer treatment and things like that. But I think that when you pair a quarterback with their college teammate, it pays dividends and it ends up working out really well. And I think that Bryce Young will have early success in with the Houston Texans, but I don't think that the Houston Texans as an organization will put him in situations to succeed. I think it'll be a lot of what we saw last year at Alabama. It'll be a lot of Bryce scrambling, running for his life, making plays, and making magic happen. So they'll know right away that they have a guy. But that size issue, though, and being part of the Texans organization, oof, I don't know. I always say like situations matter. And I think that the first two situations, Carolina and Houston, they can definitely change between now and then. But I don't have confidence in those two situations at all.
Yeah, and I think with one of the things that I just kind of thought of here when you said that is when you drop to number one, your situation does get worse, right? Like if you ended the season number one overall, you're the worst team. The Carolina Panthers had to become a worse team to get this first overall pick. So just to kind of keep that in mind, that's just one thing I just kind of thought of when we were talking. But yeah, I think Bryce Young is the pick here in the situation because of those reasons here. And then the next thing is who might trade up to number three because that's the other big kind of conversation here is, you know, the Colts potentially could trade up to number three. I don't think they will, not at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at potentially the Falcons and the Raiders as the ones to hop up to number three.
Mm-hmm. I think that if one of those teams were going to trade up to three, it would probably be the Raiders. I think the Raiders are aggressive enough to do it. Um, I'm not sure about Atlanta. It seems to me like Atlanta's philosophy these past couple of years have been safe aside from them pursuing Deshaun Watson. But I don't know. Like I don't necessarily see Atlanta moving up. I could definitely see the Raiders moving up, but that's if they don't get a good quarterback in free agency. Like the Raiders could decide, Josh McDaniels could decide that he wants Jimmy Garoppolo. And then Jimmy Garoppolo in that system, he'd be familiar. He would be able to come in and start day one. So I don't know if they'd want to trade assets because again, like you just said, you'd be getting worse trading up, and they already have a few guys that they're paying. So I don't think that they would want to shell out more assets in order to get their quarterback of the future. But then again, the Raiders are kind of crazy, so it might happen.
Yeah. If I'm a betting man, um, you're say you're the Cardinals, right? Because you have to also take this into account too. If you're the
Mhm.
Cardinals, you're trading down to get who? Like who would you be trading down and being like, what would you give up your choice of Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, or even Tyree
Mhm.
Wilson at this point too? Are you willing to give that up to have that be taken by the Seattle Seahawks, the Detroit Lions? So that's the other thing too in that situation.
Mhm. Well, absolutely. I think for the right price, you'd be able to move back and still get a premier talent. And I don't think that like you just said, if they move down with Seattle, they'll jump from 3 to 5, and that's not really that big of a fall off. And you already know that 4 is drafting a quarterback. So that kind of, mitigates the chances of you not getting an elite defensive line prospect. And they could always stock up on picks. So moving down 2 spots, getting an extra third, getting an extra second, getting, a possible player from Seattle that they don't want. So I can only see positives in the Cardinals moving down.
Yeah, and if they do move down, do you think that the Seahawks might trade up too, if the price is right? Obviously.
What do you mean?
So like would the Seattle Seahawks trade up to number 3 with the Cardinals?
Oh, would the Seahawks trade up to number 3? So it so we're looking at it as like this specific draft, like this specific mock draft that we're doing right now.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
if
yeah,
1 and 2 happen this way,
yeah,
do I think that the Seahawks would jump to 3?
yeah.
Hmm.
Because the
So it's only
Seahawks,
Will Levis and Anthony Richardson left.
yeah. Because for the Cardinals,
Yeah.
they might not want to trade with the Seahawks to give them their quarterback. So I think no.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I think no.
Hmm.
So then you would have potentially. I think the Raiders would be the move, and if they do, you think Anthony
The team
Richardson
should
or
jump.
Will Levis?
Oh, if they do, because of who Josh McDaniels has already had both of these quarterbacks in his system. Well, not necessarily both of them, but he's had a passer and he's had a runner. And I would bank that Josh McDaniels would want to draft Will Levis if he were to jump up to number 3. I don't think that he would go for Anthony Richardson. Yeah. And I don't think that the Raiders want to be that run heavy of a team because they didn't have a problem giving Josh Jacobs 300 plus touches. They have plenty of receiving weapons, and if you're going to have a player that's going to come in as a rookie, especially to learn that system, to be comfortable in it, to distribute the ball properly and maximize all the talent that's on it, I think that he would want Will Levis.
Yeah. So Will Levis, I'm trying to make a trade here, but it looks like PFF does not want the trade to happen at all.
You know, said no.
That doesn't make
Well, if
sense.
it okay, well, if that ends up being the case, I think that the Cardinals would go with Jalen Carter because the Cardinals are in love with the athletic freaks that have high ceilings.
Yeah.
That's why they drafted Simmons. That's why they drafted Buda Baker. That's why they drafted Byron Murphy, like all of those guys. Like those are like elite trait guys that they wanna bank on their athleticism to make plays at the next level. So I definitely think they would go Jalen Carter.
All right, yeah. Jalen Carter, and then okay, so we got Will Levis and Anthony Richardson here. This is most likely Will Levis, right?
Yeah,
For the Colts. Yeah.
yeah.
I think Anthony
I
Richardson,
still think no matter what happens,
yeah.
go ahead.
We're gonna get someone to work with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's giving a blacksmith a something to work with rather than
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, he's gonna find something to make it into something great. So all right, so the
hmm
Seattle Seahawks
And that's the
here,
way we should be looking at it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like I think we have that kind of craftsman. We're not just hoping for a finished product. So
hmm
so here we got Will Anderson most likely to the Seahawks, I would say, unless they want to go Tyree
Yeah.
Wilson. The Detroit Lions.
I,
Oh boy, sorry that's a little buddy over here in the pack and play, but we'll just let him kind of talk. But yeah, so
Mhm.
the Detroit Lions here. I mean, I think Tyree Wilson is the move here. If you're the Lions, you get Aiden Hutchinson and a freak. Like to me, that's crazy. You could also go Devon Witherspoon. I don't think that's really necessarily a problem there either.
Mhm. I think that they're absolutely going corner.
Okay, so
I
we'll go
think that
Devon. Yeah,
they're yeah, yeah, their front seven is pretty good.
yeah. All right. So and then the Raiders here, Anthony Richardson. They need a
Yeah.
quarterback, so I
I
mean
mean,
I would
I,
chalk that up.
right. I mean, I think that
They get a
I
vet.
don't because right, yeah. I think the more likely scenario would be them getting a vet because them getting Richardson there out of I guess just he's the best player available, so they're like, might as well do it. Like, I think if this was an Al Davis draft, Al Davis would would take Anthony Richardson in a heartbeat. Like Al Davis would be like, just give him to me, please.
Oh
But I,
yeah,
I think that they opt to go a safer route this time, so they could easily draft a deep because they need all the help they can get on defense. The Raiders defense is bad.
yeah. No, that's fair. I
So I could definitely see them getting like a Christian Gonzalez because Rock Yassin is a free agent again. So they can get like a day one starter at corner or even take, a Tyree Wilson so they have a strong edge presence.
okay. Yeah, and I think that's pretty not fair, but like I think that's pretty likely as well. And then if you're the Atlanta Falcons here, say they do take Anthony Richardson, you think Tyree Wilson's
hmm
kind of their guy at that point, right?
The Falcons, yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
So
Oh, and
yeah,
if it were the reverse, I wouldn't be surprised either. Like if Seattle, if I'm sorry, not Seattle. If the Raiders chose Tyree Wilson and then Atlanta chose Anthony Richardson, I could see that being a possibility too.
yeah.
And
All
that
right.
would actually work out better for them because Arthur Smith with Anthony Richardson would be pretty good.
Oh, for sure, 100%. And that takes us to the other team here, the Chicago Bears. So they traded from one down. 1 second.
hmm
Gotta love it. Okay. Oh my gosh. He
I
just
was gonna
woke
say,
up.
if you wanna, yeah, if you wanna wrap up or anything like that, or you
Yeah,
wanna,
I'll wrap up real quick with this Bears, and then yeah, we can kind of end it here soon.
yeah.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, got him distracted for a second. All right. All right, yeah. So with this last team here, the Chicago Bears, they traded from number 1 down to number 9, right? So this is where
Hmm.
we are talking. You get your pick of the litter when it comes to offensive tackles. You also get
Hmm.
one of the top 2 cornerbacks, most likely, which I don't think they necessarily go for. And
No, I don't think so either.
they get other players like Dalton Kincaid, Michael
Hmm.
Mayer is also an option here. So I think this puts the Bears in a really good position because they have a lot of options still.
Right.
And that's where we think that they're going to go with Paris Johnson, right here.
Yeah, had 9.
So
If they really want to get fun and they really want to get a little
trade down
sassy,
again.
at 9,
Oh,
yeah, you can either trade down again or at 9 take Jackson Smith and Jigba. Why
I
not?
mean, yeah, why not?
Yeah, now you give Justin Fields some real weapons to work with. Now you can see an actual jump in his production. Give him a guy that he's used to, and then give him a guy who's an elite talent.
Yeah. Well, and that's just like I think the point of it all is like you get all the way down to number 9, you're not really at a loss because 4 quarterbacks are going to go. You don't need those quarterbacks. And you're essentially picking 6 overall at that point because you get your 6 choice if that's
Hmm.
what it is. If this is how the rest of the field goes before him, you're getting your first pick out an offensive player, not a quarterback. And so usually
Hmm.
that's a tackle in most books. The quarterback's most important. Then tackle if you don't have one, and then wide receivers. All right, so we just got to the end of this here, just to kind of show you what the chances are with this trade down for the Bears. Obviously, it would be great to
Hmm.
just take the best dude off the board, but if you're worried more about
Hmm.
an offensive tackle, you get the most amount of compensation that you can get, and you still get most likely the guy that you want. So for the Bears, this pick makes a lot of sense. This trade makes a lot of sense, I should say. And for the Panthers, as long as you hit on the guy that's going to be the best out of this class, then the trade's worth it. And, we can all shut up about
Hmm.
who won the draft and who didn't. But
Right.
um, that to me is just, I think that's the biggest point. Also, it impacts the Texans, the Colts, and what other team would have gotten to take a quarterback before the Panthers. And so those people kind of just
Hmm.
lost their chance at the trade up. They lost their chance at their number 1 guy. And now it's like, okay, what if scenarios? What happens if the Cardinals trade up? What if we don't get our guy? What do
Hmm.
we do? And, is the number 4 quarterback for the Colts, say Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, most likely, are they worth
Hmm.
taking at that point, or do we go and start preparing for a different route? Like, it is is there any reason that the Colts might look at these other quarterbacks and say, hey, maybe we don't pull the trigger on this right now, and let's build a team. Let's go get a free agent quarterback, a Jameis Winston or whatever, and live to fight another day, and we'll see where we are next year, and what we could do there.
Hmm.
So that's the thing. The Panthers making the trade now. One, it opens up their moves for free agency. They know what to kind of build around now. Same for the Bears. Kind of makes sense for both of them, but it just gives those teams that extra time to say, okay, what if? So, yeah, if you stuck to the end of this video, props to you. There's going to be a lot of editing at the end of this video because a little homeboy here joined me at like the last like 10 minutes of the video. That's why
Hmm.
I was maybe a little bit more distracted, but that's all good and all. So if you got to the end of this video, show us some love, drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Also, reach out to Mr. Absolutely on Twitter. He's definitely active. If you're a big Colts fan, he's someone to just at least have a follow on him, see what he's talking about, because usually he's right around the thick of it all. So, love having you on, man. Anything else you want to say before we head out?
No, nothing I want to add really is just like you said, I think that the Bears won this trade because what they did was essentially they had a lottery ticket that could potentially be $1 million. Like they like when you go to the to 7-Eleven and you get like a lottery ticket and out of that machine, like there's one that's $100 and then there's a whole bunch of them that are like 10, 20, 30, $40. So the Panthers traded a bunch of 10, 20, $30 lottery tickets for one that could be $1 million. So it's like, it's the more picks you have, the better it is for you. Um, Good luck to the Panthers, but this definitely makes this draft that's upcoming a lot more fun and a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Bob. Stick around for more videos. Like I said, if you subscribe, this is the time of the year for all this content to come out. So we're going to be putting out more and more videos. We got some videos coming out here, just mock drafts. We do mock talks, which is like a mock draft review and all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, hope you guys have a good day. Boom.